Hey guys, it's Full Cards here, live and direct from Brooklyn, New York. And today I thought I'd do something a bit askew, a bit off-center, unique and different. I thought I'd crack open a box of the 7th inning sketch from 1991, 1992, Quebec Major Junior League. So 36 packs per box, 10 cards per pack. That would make 360 cards. And that is probably a bit too involved to do the entire break, but I thought I would nonetheless sort of give you a fair representation of what's in this box. It's a $2 box of cards. Please subscribe. I'll have much different breaks over the next little while, but I thought I'd do this base set nonetheless because I do not neglect any league or anything. What you need to know about junior hockey, there are 3 tiers, major, junior, junior A, and then the BCDs, and then also the Canadian Hockey League houses 3 leagues. You have the Q, the Quebec League, you also have the Ontario Hockey League and the Western Hockey League. So what would we be looking for? We would be looking for a Mathew Brodeur card. He was drafted in 1990, 20th overall, the same year as Felix Potvin was drafted 31st overall. Felix isn't in here, but Marty is. If we look at the back of the box, it has a service announcement sort of geared towards kids. It's sort of a sad statement on humanity, sponsored by the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. And to this day, child trafficking is a real issue in the world. So these, I guess those are global sort of issues, but it's kind of a bizarre sort of thing to have at the back of the box, tips for kids. So we look at the box here, we see on the right a stack of base cards, and we see that the cards themselves are sort of blue and blue with some silver and red and very Quebec looking, 10 cards per pack. And so let's open up a pack and sort of see what they look like. And then I'll do a bit of a review and sort of guesstimation of what is in a box, just for fun, doing the Quebec Major Junior League today. So here we have various players, and then we have these in-action cards as well. So that's an in-action card, which is actually a half decent one. They look a little bit underexposed for whatever reason. Really papery cards, not exactly, up to snuff in comparison to the cards of today. But nonetheless, that's what the cards look like. So I'll give a quick review, a rundown. So you get loads of base. You basically can build your entire base set more or less, although there's plenty of duplicates of these paper cards. The base set's about 300 cards. But it's interesting that they did have these cards back then, very 1990s forward. So what do you get? For example, you do get these checklists, which are somewhat fascinating and interesting. So that's kind of cool that they have the various team checklists. And then here we have also team roster cards with the individual logos of the teams, I guess. So you have the Bisons, and here you have the Harfang, which are probably snow owls or something to that effect, and the Voltigeurs, and you see that they have the player rosters. So that's what they had back then, which is kind of interesting. In terms of known quantities and so on, there certainly were, well, there was the coaches. We also have coach cards. Joe Canal. There's Jean-Med. He was actually a HAB for probably about a year. So you see the coaches of the various teams are represented, which is kind of interesting and cool. And what else do you get? You get some known quantities. So back then in 1991, 1992, they probably had cards of players from draft years 1990, 91, 92, and 93. And we see Patrick Poulin. Patrick Poulin, of course, was drafted 9th overall in 1991 by the Hartford Whalers. We see Sandy McCarthy, who was another person who was certainly drafted. Dean Melanson, I think, was a 4th rounder. I'm not entirely sure. Donald Brashear was undrafted, but he's a bruiser, and we certainly remember him for basically his fights. He played with the Habs, but he also played with Philly. I believe he played with the Capitals as well. So here he is in playing for the Collège Français de Verdun. And who else? We have Manny Fernandez. Manny Fernandez, he was a goalie. I think he was drafted either by Dallas or no, maybe it would have been by Quebec back in the day. Yeah, indeed, he was drafted by the Quebec Nordiques in the 3rd round in 1992. Of course, he went on to play with Dallas. He went on to also play with the Minnesota Wild, and he played with the Boston Bruins as a backup, you might recall. Here we have Pascal Rhéaume, who was the younger brother of Manon Rhéaume, who was the woman who played a couple of games with the Bolts in the preseason. Manon Rhéaume was only 5'7". In the new NHL, you basically have to be over 6 feet. You pretty much have to be over 6'2". I believe Carey Price is almost 6'3". Shorter goalies like Halak are probably maybe about 5'11". which is probably too short in this day and age given the precision of shots. We have Mathew Barnaby. He, of course, was on the Buffalo Sabres as a little bit of a disturbance, and he was drafted, I think, in the 4th round by Buffalo. And here we have Alexandre Daigle, who was the first overall in 1993. Unfortunately, he really didn't pan out. He only got 50 points, I believe, a couple of times in his career. Right behind him, Chris Pronger was drafted, and Paul Correa. Joseline Tebow was actually that year as well, and Tebow was drafted, I think, 10th overall. I also noticed that we have these in-action cards, which I mentioned. So here's a couple of those in-action cards. Just as I said, they're sort of underexposed or something. They're kind of cool, loads of duplicates. But that's what you get with these cards. Get underexposed, sort of papery cards. Who else do we have? We have Patrick Traverse, who was a draft pick as well. A lot of these guys were drafted by either the Quebec Nordiques or the Montreal Canadiens, just because a lot of them are from Quebec. And Patrick Traverse is card number 63. He was drafted by the Sens in the 3rd round. I'm not sure who he played with. He played with a bunch of teams back in the day. I think he played with Ottawa, Anaheim. He did play with the Habs for a bit, as well as Dallas. And here we have Joseline Tebow, who I said was drafted 10th overall. He was sort of involved in the Patrick Roy debacle, because when Patrick Roy was traded, the Habs got Joseline Tebow back, and Joseline Tebow 10th overall really was not any form or fashion of a comparison to Patrick Roy, who was a 3rd round draft pick, but ended up being one of the best goalies in the game alongside this guy here. So I did get the Marty Brodeur card. Marty Brodeur, as I said, was drafted in 1990, had a stellar career with the Devils. And so this is sort of a quasi rookie card, I guess. The card is probably worth about $3, no more than that. In fact, his rookie card, his actual rookie card, is certainly like a $1 or $2 card. But the value jumps if you get it graded. So you potentially get it graded, then the value becomes about $20. This card, as you can see, is in absolute pristine mint condition. So that's basically what you get in a box of the good stuff. These are 1990 cards from the Q. There are OHL cards. I will open up a box. I will break a box of the OHL cards. Just for $2, a lot of fun, and you do, if you want to hit this particular card, or for example the Alexandre Daigle, those would be the cards you'd be looking for. So I happen to be Fulton Cards, live and direct from a place called Brooklyn, New York. Please do subscribe. I have a bunch of boxes to open over the next little while, including stuff like the Beehive one in the background. I'll be doing OPG, I'll be doing ones with memorabilia cards, old school cards, new breaks. I'll be doing it all. Fulton Cards, live and direct from Brooklyn, New York.